I created quite a few creatures for our Wizarding World Halloween, some from scratch and several cobbled together from other parts, mostly as last-minute projects due to all our work on Diagon Alley all year. For our friendly forest, I used free credit card points to buy several of the officially licensed fantastic beasts, like bowtruckles, Cornish pixies, niffler, and phoenix, owls, and even a round yellow bird close enough to be a golden snidget, but I also wanted a centaur, plus a giant occamy with her nest of silver eggs, so I had to make those myself. Our new Christmas reindeer's head conveniently came apart at the chest, and I was able to buy a mannequin torso with free points, also finding a latex mask with beard and hair matching the reindeer fur color, so he was Ragnar, our Scandinavian reindeer centaur. By cutting the mannequin little by little, testing fit at each step, I was able to set the torso over the reindeer body without any extra fasteners. I did need to paint the mannequin for the skin to match the latex mask and add glass cabochon eyes behind the eye holes, but then I used a scrap from a thrifted fur vest tied around the front to hide the seams. People got a good laugh seeing our very fit centaur, and some even took selfies with him. I have wanted to make a teal and purple occamy since I saw the first Fantastic Beasts movie, but sadly my first occamy ended up rushed as a last-minute project, so I plan to improve her next time. Thankfully, I had made the big nest from ivy prunings in the spring and sprayed plastic Easter eggs silver, so the nest was an easy setup with the rest of our friendly forest. For Big Mama Occamy, I had bought 5 yards of perfect iridescent mermaid scale fabric in the spring, but all the spells and construction for Diagon Alley took all summer into the fall, so I was frantically sewing and papier-mâchéing the week before we opened to get Big Mama Occamy done. Thanks to Sheila and Jen for cutting foam feathers for the wings, Jen for giving the papier-mâché head a base coat of dry lock sealer, Sid for stuffing the 15-foot-long body, and Denise for helping with lighting setup. We knew we wanted Hagrid welcoming everyone next to his pet dragon at the front of our friendly forest, which also meant he was waving farewell as most people exited the forest. We already had a dragon we had scored using free points 4 years ago, but I had to build Hagrid. I was worried about making him tall enough while stable, but luckily we acquired an oversized Angel of Death Halloween prop from our local Haunters group prop swap. Not only did that supply the structure for Hagrid, but I used the oversized skull as a mold for 2 more hollow Dementor faces, and the creepy hands with the original skull for the lead Dementor. I never did find faux fur fabric yardage that looked right for Hagrid, but I lucked out at the thrift store finding a couple blankets that worked as tweedy pants, a vest, and a fur coat. I had my dad's old brown leather jacket in our monster stash, which worked as an undershirt, but the only giant gloves I could find that actually had palms needed a manicure. The official Hagrid mask had bloody slashes and didn't even look like Hagrid, so I found a jolly old man mask for free points that at least had chubby cheeks and a good smile, peeled off the white eyebrows, filled in the latex mask with spray foam, painted the eyes, and mounted a scrap 2x4 with nails matching the Angel of Death neck structure. I had found a wig and beard set I got online with more free points, and it looked much better on the mask than on me. Our scary Nocturne Alley with Dementors was my idea for a more spooky Halloween flavor, and we knew we didn't have time this year for our grand plans, but I insisted on making the Dementors even if they didn't move, staying up till 4 a.m. a couple nights climbing on our garden shed roof by myself experimenting with setups. I hoped they would move in the breeze using thinner long PVC pipes that could bend anchored to scrap wood weighted on the roof, but by the time I added papier-mâché heads, 1 thin cross piece's shoulders, foam and wire arms, and black cheesecloth, they were already too heavy and leaned face down to the ground. I started over with fresh, shorter PVC so they couldn't bend over as far, tying them with monofilament so they wouldn't swing into the neighbor's yard, but even with a fan on the roof behind them, hoping at least for fluttering fabric, I still didn't get any noticeable movement. With blue and purple spotlights, they still looked spooky. Everyone expected they would move, so they were scared enough. And with my rear projected loop of 10 random Patronus animals appearing in the window, my story was that someone else must be helping keep the Dementors at bay by casting Expecto Patronum for them. All those creatures were fun, but my favorite I made this year was the Monster Book of Monsters. After unsuccessful searches online and in person, not finding the right texture of faux fur, finally in the spring I found a perfect old fur vest at a flea market, which I used for the book and our centaur. Since our monster book was going to move and be controlled by a spell, I couldn't make the actual monster until we had our mechanisms settled. We had a spare robot vacuum, and once I removed the housing and the vacuum suction parts, it fit almost perfectly under an oversized fake book I already had, saving me the work of making yet another fake book. I cut the book bottom to pressure fit around the vacuum edges, but putting it on required opening the cover to get everything sitting just right, and we had to remove the monster cover from the vacuum to recharge the battery each night. I covered the book with the old fur, cutting the tentacles overhanging the edges. Some red foam fabric made a perfect tongue. Then I used polymer clay to sculpt the teeth and gums, and sculpted the eyelids and nose around eyes made of glass cabochons on printed paper. Everyone loved this little guy roaming around his cage inside the bookshop, sometimes rushing the window at eye level to small children, but even they mostly wanted to pet him. Now that you know some of my techniques, even the last-minute ones, I hope you enjoy creating creatures yourself.